Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Chiefskate, and welcome to our very first episode of Way of the Warhammer. Way of the Warhammer is a series that I'll be running on this channel talking about all things related to the Warhammer The Old World game created by Games Workshop. And of course, as you guys may have, longtime viewers of this show might actually know, I actually started this channel as a Warhammer Fantasy Battle channel 10 plus years ago when I actually first started getting into YouTube. It was actually the game that I grew up with. It's the game that I love. I started branching out to other games like Necromunda and Mordheim accordingly, and especially now in the most recent period of time for this channel's history, I've been doing a lot of Necromunda material. And the reason why is because I'm currently working on my master's program for my job and for my career, so I don't really have a lot of time to actually make Warhammer battle reports, and I kind of fell out a little bit with Warhammer The Old World just because I've been focusing on my master's program and I've been doing a lot of things with Necromunda just because the content's much easier to actually do because it's something that I know pretty intimately well, and I can make a lot of a lot of videos about that content. So now I'm starting to branch out a little bit more back to Warhammer The Old World, going back to my channel's roots, just because I love Warhammer Fantasy and I love the Old World. I'm really glad that they brought that product back and they're actually seeing people play on the videos. So on today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to actually talk about our starting lists for your armies of Beastmen Brayherds. The reason why I decided to go with this army is because this is currently the army that I am playing now. In fact, that was the last few videos I made on Warhammer The Old World. That was the army I actually used. So because of that, we're going to do exactly the same thing in this video and talk about the Beastmen Brayherds. Now in this video, I'm going to give you 3 different rosters. I'm going to give you a 2,000 point list. This would be a good kind of overall general play kind of list that you can use for your games of Warhammer The Old World. I then also have a 2,500 point list as well as a 3,000 point list, so in case you want to play the larger games as well. And because this video will be a little more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that way you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's talk about playing Beastmen Brayherds at 2,000 points. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about exactly how we're going to be building these rosters. So as you guys can see on my screen, I actually have a copy of the Old World Builder, which is a wonderful tool. This is a great tool for people to use who actually want to get into Warhammer The Old World. It's a really great free to use tool that kind of helps you build rosters very quickly. Kind of reminds me of the old army builder from back in the day. And as you can see, I have 3 lists, one at 2,000 points, 2,500 points, and 3,000 points. And this is the medium I'll be using in order to communicate to you guys exactly what your guys' roster should look like. So let's talk about Beastmen Brayherds and what exactly you should have. So we're going to start with a 2,000 point roster first. A 2,000 point roster is a good starting point because this is the level that most people play at, both competitively and just as well as for fun. It's the most common point level that most people will be playing at as well, for those of you guys who want to be playing for Beastmen Brayherds. So I decided to start with this 2,000 point roster real quick. It's a pretty decent roster in my opinion because it can pretty much take on almost all comers, so that way it's very versatile. You can use it in a lot of situations. A lot of synergy going on with this list in order to help you out, to help you dominate a little bit better on the tabletop. So let's go and talk about exactly what we have. So as you can see here on the Old World Builder, we have our characters, our core units, we also have our special units as well as our rare units. And I'm going to go through each one of these different units and talk about exactly what you will consist of. So first of all, let's talk about your general real fast. Your general for this army will be a Beast Lord. And the reason why we're doing that is because we can take Besagors as core for your army as well. Now, Warhammer The Old World is a little bit different than the Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Back with Warhammer Fantasy Battle with 8th edition, you relied on huge, massive blocks of infantry forces in order to do a lot of things. Just because you got support attacks and extra ranks, you also got the Horde formation allowing you to attack up to the 3rd rank. However, that's all changed now with the current way that most people are playing Warhammer The Old World. If I had to equate what playing Warhammer The Old World was like, it was like playing Hero Hammer from the 4th and 5th editions of Warhammer Fantasy. A lot of people spent a lot of their point values on characters because your characters were the ones that are pretty much getting it done. Characters in units, characters riding chariots, characters riding monsters. They were the main killers in your game, while your regiments and everything else was kind of like support in order to kind of protect them and also to lend some additional support to your attacks. So our lists are going to look a little bit different than most. Now, When it comes to Beastmen Brayherd, however, even though I didn't just mention the whole hero hammer aspect of the game, Beastmen Brayherd are a little bit different, and that's the reason why is because the rules that they have for army-wide rule. Well, this army has very middling leadership characteristics, but one of the things that most of your units have in this army are basically these special rules, which are called Warband. And what that does, I'm going to click this open real quick, what it does allows you to add a positive modifier to your leadership equal to your rank bonuses. Now, because most of your units basically can benefit from a rank bonus of 2+, that means that most of your units will get +2 on their leadership characteristics from most of your fighters, which is going to be very important for you because Beastmen Brayherds are very have a lot of synergy using that leadership characteristic. And the reason why that is the case is because when your army-wide special rules, of course, is this wonderful Primal Fury rule. And it reads here that when this unit's combat is chosen, step 1.1 of any chosen fight sub-phase, and must make a leadership test. If this test is passed, the unit becomes subject to Primal Fury, and until the end of the combat phase. A unit subject to Primal Fury may reroll any rolls to hit of a natural 1. So that's going to be a nice way to kind of help you kind of balance out a little bit and to actually, reroll some of those ones that hit. Your army gets benefits a lot from this, but we also have some other things that cause us to kind of stack on top of this as well. We have this other one called Blood Rage, and it says if testing to see if the subject becomes subject to Primal Fury, and this unit passes leadership test with any roll of a natural double, it also becomes frenzied. A unit with this special rule may become frenzied in this way if it lost frenzy early in the game. So that's another thing that's going to also help you stack up a little bit more. So you get additional attacks. You'll also be able to reroll for ones. So leadership plays a huge role, especially with your with the way that this army plays. And then of course we have the Foe Render special rule, and basically reads that while subject to Primal Fury, hand weapons carried by model of the special will have additional armor piercing characteristic of -2. Now that's not going to play such a big role for this character so much, just because we do have a magic weapon for this character. But it kind of illustrates to you why leadership is so important for this army, and while even though if you're kind of playing at old 8th edition style rules, it kind of still works a little bit with the Beastmen army, just because those rank bonuses are going to help you get those leadership characteristics, and it's also going to help you trigger Primal Fury, which also trigger Blood Rage, which could also trigger Foe Render on top of that. So that's the reason why this is a little bit more of an easier army for people to actually get into the game with. So like I mentioned before, your Beast Lord will be your general for this one. It's got a wonderful characteristics real quick. As you can see here, it's got a pretty decent combat statistics, leadership 8, but with your Warband rule, they'll be able to bump it up to leadership 10. So that's one of the nice things about this character as well. They also have this Brayherd in case you want to use ambushers. We don't really have ambushers too much on this list, so we're not going to worry about that too much, but that is something you play with if you want to. Now, because they're your general, we are going to equip them to make them a little bit more survivable. We're giving them heavy armor and shield for obvious reasons, so that way a little bit more survivable in close combat. But how we're going to use this character, though, is to kind of give some buffs for your Beast Lord with your Bestigor Herd. You're going to put your Beast Lord with your Bestigor Herd unit in your core units, so that way you can get some nice little, some additional buffs to your unit to make it a little bit more survivable. Now, one of the things we're going to do, of course, is give this character magic items. We're giving them 2 specific magic items to be exact. One of the first ones we're going to give him is the Man Gilder, and the other one is the Pelt of the Dark Young. Now, these are both Beastmen exclusive magical items. So the Man Gilder one will give you a +1 to your strength characteristics, which is great, plus -1 to your armor piercing, which is great, gives you magical attacks as well, but also gives you the terror special rule. And the rule reads that the wound of the Man Gilder causes terror. Any enemy unit that suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds from the Man Gilder suffers a -1 modifier to his leadership characteristic to a minimum of 2 until the end of the turn. Which is great because when you combine that with terror as well as fear, that's another byproduct of terror with this Man Gilder, makes it quite devastating, and it makes a really good close combat weapon for you to use. Alright, especially when you combine that with that strength characteristic of 6 up. So you're going to be wounding quite a bit of people with that ability. At the same time, we're also giving another magic item called Pelt of the Dark Young, so let's go and look at that real fast. As is maybe one with other armor, the Pelt of the Dark Young improves their armor value by 1. In addition, its wearer and any unit that they have joined has magic resistance -2, which is really great because it's going to take off -2 from enemies' casting values that anybody tries to cast any spells against your Bestigor unit, as well as your Beast Lord being in that unit as well. So it's going to protect your Beast Lord. It's also going to protect the unit that he's also running around with as well, and at the same time adds a little bit more protection against that. Now, to kind of maximize this guy's synergy with his Bestigor Herd, we're giving this guy Slug Skin, which is Chaos Mutation. It costs 50 points, and what this does is says any enemy model that directs its attack against this model or any unit has joined in the combat phase suffers a -1 hit modifier to rolls to hit. So not only does your general cause terror, They also can put fear on top of that. And at the same time, your enemies also suffer -1 leadership. And then plus when you add then that slug skin characteristic on there as well as for -1 to hit, it actually works out very well to your benefit and causes a lot of problems. Now, unfortunately, we can't really spam the psychology aspect of this list too much. We just don't have enough points to do so. We'll be able to see this later on in the higher points, but this is actually a really good solid foundation for your leader to actually have for your army. Now, your second character you're going to have, of course, is your Great Bray Shaman. This guy's going to cost you 240 points. Once again, this is going to be a Brayherd. This guy's going to be a Shaman. It's got a Bray Staff, which is a great multi-use weapon. Make this character a level 4 wizard. This guy's going to be on foot, and you're going to pair this guy with your Warhammer. We'll talk about that here in a second. Now, we're also taking Elementalism as our lore of magic, and the reason why is because not only do you have access to a really good series of spells. Wind Blast is going to be really nice for you to use. Same thing to travel the magical pathways. Earthen Ramparts, Summon Earthen Spirit, Plague of Rust, Flaming Sword. These are all Stormcall. These are all great lores that could really help you out for your Beastmen army. And we're going to pair this guy a little bit deadlier with the magic items we're giving, make him a little bit more lethal with his magic missiles that we're using. So first of all, we're going to give this guy the Ruby Ritter Rune, and the reason why we're giving this character that magical item is because you'll be able to cast Fireball at a power level of 2. So it's going to be casting as one of your shooting attacks for your magic missile, which is great. And when you combine this with your hag tree fetish, let's go open that up. Whenever the bearer of the hag tree fetish suddenly casts a magic missile, let me reroll any failed rolls to wound, which is going to be really helpful for you to do that, especially if you manage to get that spell as well as your fireball spell. It's going to be able to hook up with that. Same thing with your wind blast spell from your elementals tree, but the main reason why we want this is for your Lore of Beast spell. We want to take Vile Tide, which is another magic missile that gives you 5d6 strength 1 hits. Now you might be thinking, well, Commander Cheapskate, it's only strength 1 hits. This is true, but if you roll 5s or 6s though, it still counts as a wound. And if you can re-roll any failed wounds, it's going to make this spell even deadlier with your way we're going to load this out. And that's the reason why we're taking this for this character. So that way they're basically just kind of slinging magic missiles all the way that they're running around, causing all kinds of problems as well. And then our third character for our 2,000 point list is going to be your War Gore. It's going to be your Battle Standard Bearer, and give this character the Vitriolic Totem. And the reason why we're doing this is so that way your character has Poison Attack Special Rule. Now the Poison Attack Special Rule basically is when you roll a natural 6 when making a roll to hit, the wound will wound automatically. Unless otherwise stated, a model with this special rule may use it when making both shooting and combat attacks. Any spells cast by the model are unaffected, as are any attacks made with magical weapons. So having that natural roll of 6 could be really nice to have. It's going to add a little bit more lethality to your army, and that's the reason why we're having it built this way. This character's packing hand weapon as well as heavy armor as well as a shield make it a little bit more survivable as well, and we are giving them the Talisman of Protection. The Talisman of Protection, of course, does give them a ward save, which gives them a 5-up ward save. One of the things that's quite interesting about Warhammer the Old World is that they have kind of limited the effect that ward saves actually have. They don't play as major a role as they used to during the 8th edition of Warhammer Fantasy. There's some good and bad things about that, but makes this character a little bit more survivable because you want to keep him around. Just because he is also your Battle Standard Bearer, he's going to add some additional rerolls for leaderships, which is also going to trigger, once again, your Primal Fury, as well as your Blood Rage and your Full special rules. So this is going to be a good thing to kind of help out your army overall. And you're going to pair up your War Gore with the Gore Herd that we're going to talk about here in a second. Now, speaking of which, let's talk about your guys' core. Now, we have 3 units for core. Now, you do have to pay your core tax, which of course is 500 points. But because we're taking a Beast Lord for our general, that also means that we can take Besagor as our core choices for this one. So we're going to take a unit of 19 of Besagor. It's going to have full command, and at the same time, we're also giving this group the War Banner as well. And what the War Banner does, it gives you +1 to your combat resolution as well. So not only do you get +1 for your standard, you also get +1 as well for the War Banner, plus your rank bonuses, which are going to be quite important for you as well. So it's going to give you 4 combat res static, assuming that you don't take any casualties. So it's going to be a really good way to kind of help balance out the scales a little bit for your army. Now these guys automatically come with heavy armor. They also come with great weapons as well, automatically as well. And we're also going to upgrade these guys to the Veteran Special Rule, which means that the majority of the models need to have this special rule. They may re-roll any failed leadership tests. Now, why is that important? Well, first of all, leadership tests are ability to re-roll those is always important. But the reason why we want that as well, so that way we can trigger our Blood Rage and as well as our Primal Fury for our army to make it even more deadly. And when you combine that with the things that the Beast Lord can already do already, but giving you -2 to casting results against this unit, as well as combination with Slug Skin, and this unit causes terror, you're starting to see how this causes this cascading effect of multiple abilities kind of being stacked up to help you to dominate against your enemies. Not to mention these guys also have Warband, so you have +2 to your leadership characteristic, which is also really important too. And then, of course, we have our Goreherd. Now, your Goreherd is going to contain your War Gore. Your War Gore, which is your Battle Center Bear, is going to run around with your Goreherd. Now, it is 19 strong. We got full command for the entire unit as well. And at the same time, we give them additional hand weapons. We're not giving them shield because there's no point in kind of spending the points on that. We want the additional hand weapons to get that additional attack. And when we pair that up with our Vitriolic Totem to give us poison attacks, it's going to give us a lot of dice to use in order to trigger automatic wounds on top of that, which would be quite nice. The nice thing about these guys too is that they also have Open Order, they also have Horde as well, they also have Warband, which are really great rules to help these guys out. They also got Bestial Charge, which is quite nice, which basically means you get +1 modifier to your strength characteristic, which is going to be really good. So these guys will now be strengthing at strength 4. So they already have toughness 4 already, but now they're going to have strength 4 when they be able to attack, plus the additional attack on top of that, plus that attack also has poison. Plus, if we pass Primal Fury, you can reroll wounds of 1. If we manage to roll a double of any sort, we get Blood Rage, so they have Fury on top of that. So there's a lot of really good things that we can actually use in order to help us out in order to fight against our enemies. Not to mention that Horde characteristic also comes with the family too, because we can increase our maximum rank bonus and claim by 1 additional one. So if we have our unit stuck in like 5 inches, 5 fighters wide and 4 deep, we can put up 3 combat res with our rank bonuses. So that is actually quite good on top of that. Now, I did misspoke earlier. I talked about your Great Bray Shaman's going to run with your Goreherd. I was actually incorrect about that. You're going to put them in the Ungoreherd. Now, this Ungoreherd is going to be upgraded with short bows. We're not giving them anything on top of that. The only reason why we're having this Ungoreherd is so that way your Great Bray Shaman kind of pals around with them. Now, with that being said, though, make sure that you don't actually put the Great Bray Shaman in the unit. The Great Bray Shaman is a standalone character who moves alongside of the Ungor unit, so that way he doesn't get targeted alongside this unit. They get targeted as well. That's something you don't want to have happen. So you want to make sure that it's just kind of like a little screen to kind of protect your wizard, even though your wizard's not really part of the unit as well. And we gave him short bows because why not? You don't have any much shooting in this army, so might as well give you a little bit additional on top of that. Not to mention this chariot runner ability is really going to be really important for you later on. We'll talk about that why, because we're going to upgrade our shaman with a chariot later on as we go up in the point values. But that's going to also play a huge role in order to protect your fighter as well. Now let's talk about your special units. You're gonna have you have 2 units of 3 dragon ogres apiece. These guys are gonna have their leader, the Shark Tax, also gonna be included on these guys as well. We're giving these guys great weapons, so that way we can increase their strength characteristics. So if you can see here, it gives us +2 strength on these guys, -2 armor piercing with armor bane 1. Now we are striking last with that rule, but let's be perfectly honest about it. We are dragon ogres. We're gonna have only 2 initiative anyways, so it's not gonna be much of a big deal. But that strength 7, however, is gonna be really great to take on enemies. Specifically, you want to use these guys against things like heavy cavalry, for example, chariots, particularly monsters, beasts, monsters infantry, monsters cavalry, monsters behemoths, that sort of thing is what you want these guys to go after. We're also going to include them up with heavy armor as well, and when you combine that with their armored hide on top of that, that's going to make them extremely survivable. They already come with armor bane as well. They also have cause fear. They have ensorcelled weapons. They're also immune to psychology. They have 2 stomp attacks, and if anybody's foolish enough to hit with any kind of lightning bolts of any sort, these guys will also become even deadlier. So dragon ogres are really nice, and the reason why is because they do have that they have that fast movement characteristic of 7-up, which is going to be really nice for you to move around the battlefield to help you kind of close a distance. Now, if you'll notice, I don't have any Minotaurs in this group, and the reason why is because I decided to double up on dragon ogres, just because you want that speed and movement to kind of take on your more heavily armored or higher one characters. Now, for our rare units, of course, we have 2 monsters. In this one, we have the Gorgon. The Gorgon, of course, is a meat grinder of a monster. Just got the Blood Greed, it's got Frenzy, it's got Primal Fury, it's got Stab Attacks, it's got the Swallow Whole special, which is quite nice. It's also got its Cleaver Limbs, which are quite deadly, with -2 AP with Killing Blow, as well as Monster Slayer. So this game is going to be going after anything that, of course, has a pulse that's quite large. So any large monsters, for example, is what you want to send your Gorgon into, causing all kinds of problems. Now, I did include another monster, which is the Cygor. Now, you might be thinking, well, Commander Cheapskate, why the Cygor? The Cygor is not that great. It's not that great. This is true. But it does have some things that does help it out. It does have its throwing attack, which is quite nice. It has the ability to actually, launch basically hurl attacks, which basically acts as a stone thrower, which is quite nice. So it kind of gives you a little bit more ranged artillery for your army that you really don't have access to. And plus, it's a monster as well. So because of that, it gives your enemies especially if you're fighting guys like Empire, for example. If you're fighting against a gun line, they will be concentrating most of their fire against your big monsters like your Gorgon and your Cygor. So your Cygor kind of acts as a bullet magnet, if that basically makes sense. So your enemy is kind of concentrating fire against a Cygor instead of maybe your more vulnerable units, and that's the reason why I've done this. Now, you could, of course, take out the Cygor and get yourselves Minotaurs if you want instead. I mean, that's perfectly fine. It's up to you. But I do feel the Cygor does play an important role for your army in that your enemies will be concentrating its fire against that and not against the more, squishy parts of your army. And that's the reason why I recommend taking a Cygor for this list. And that makes up your guys' 2,000 point army for this part. So now that we're done talking about the 2,000 point list, let's talk about the 2,500 point list as well. Now, you're going to see a lot of similarities between the 2,000 point list as well as the 2,500 point list. Think of the 2,000 point list as the core of your army, and we're just kind of ratcheting up from there and just adding some additional things to your army to make it even better. All right, that's kind of a good way of looking at it. Now, when it comes to your characters, they're all exactly the same. Exactly the same characters as your 2,000 point list. However, we are increasing a little bit with your core just because we require the additional core requirements of 625 points. Now, as you see here, we've routed out your Bessigor Herd as well as your Gore Herd to make it an even 20. Now, the reason why I've done that so that way you can have 3 ranks of 7. That way you have a much larger front rank that makes it a little bit more survivable for in the fight in close combat. When you combine that with that Gore Herd with that Horde ability, that can really help you out quite a bit too. You still get that +2 to your rank bonus, which will also help you out for your leadership score, so that all still stays the same. Your Ungor unit also stays to remain the same as well, but we've actually added singular Razor Gores. Now, Razor Gores are quite nice because they are quite deadly. A strength 5, toughness 5, 3 wounds. They got 4 attacks as well. They can charge up 4. They cause fear. They have foe rendered, cause D3 impact hits, armor bane. So instead of actually just having chaff in your army, we're taking Razor Gores individually to act as both the chaff in your army and also to deal with enemy chaffs. So enemy cavalry, for example, like light cavalry, if you have fanatics you want to deal against or whatever the case may be, the Razor Gore is perfect for causing that kind of problems for your enemy. And we're taking 2 of those just because it's a great, unit to take in order to fulfill that role. Now, when it comes to your special units, we still have your 2 units of 3 Dragon Ogres. Same thing with the units, still have the Gorgon and the Cygor. But the biggest difference, though, is that we've now added a Minotaur herd. Now, we have 6 Minotaurs in this unit. It's got full command as well, and we gave them the banner of Outrage. And the reason why we did that is so that way, if you needed to, you could actually reroll your leadership characteristics when testing for Primal Fury. So in case you don't like what it is, you can use that to give these guys Primal Fury as well. And the reason why is because these guys also have Blood Greed, they have Blood Rage, they also have Bull Gores, they have Close Order, Impact Hits. These guys are amazing. And because they have the Motley Crew special rule, what we're going to do is we're going to actually change up their loadout a little bit. We're giving 3 of these guys additional hand weapons, so that way they get +1 attack. We're giving 3 of these guys great weapons as well, so that way you can also engage larger targets. Things like heavy cavalry, for example, or heavy infantry, or monsters if you want to. That additional strength would be a nice way to kind of secure that against your enemy fighters and to take them out that way as well. And of course, I did make a mistake. I did talk about this before, but we are giving your Bessigor Herd a little bit of an upgrade besides the 1 additional fighter. We're giving it the Man-Bane standard. So what is that? It's basically a magical standard, and it reads that all enemies within 6 inches of the model carrying the Man-Bane standard suffer a -1 modifier to the leadership characteristics to a minimum of 2. We are combining this, of course, with your Beast Lord. Your Beast Lord also has the Man-Gilder. Let's talk about that a little bit more in detail for a quick reminder as that. It also causes additional -1 leadership characteristics to your enemy, and also causes terror as well. So if your general manages to wound anybody, that enemy unit will suffer not 1 to their leadership characteristic, but 2 to their leadership characteristic, because we're working that in totem, in conjunction with your Man-Bane standard. So it's going to be a nice way to kind of help out cause problems for your enemy. Plus, since you also cause fear as a terror-causing unit, that could also cause some fear shenanigans to take place with your enemies, make it much easier to wound. And plus, when you stack it with all the buffs you get from your Primal Fury and your Blood Rage, it's a recipe for disaster for your enemies. I forgot to mention that, so I do apologize for that. But yeah, so your Bessigor Herd is going to be quite deadly in the clinch. The same thing with your guys' Minotaur Herd, also causing all kinds of problems as well. And your Gorgon and your Cygor also make a return too. So we're just kind of ratcheting this up and making this list a little bit bigger. And that's going to be your 2,500 point roster for this one. Alright, so now that we're going to talk about the 2,500 point roster, let's talk about your 3,000 point roster, which is going to be the maximum that you usually can take for most Warhammer games. Now your general, your Beast Lord still remains the same, but we have some upgrades. Same thing with your Wargore, he stays the same as well, But your Great Bray Shaman, though, we are upgrading them. And the reason why we're upgrading them is because we're giving them the Tuskor Chariot. Now, the reason why that's the case is because the Tuskor Chariot does give you a couple of bonuses. First of all, it gives you Bestigor Crew, which is quite nice as well. It also gives you impact hits. It also has Razor Tusks. It's a really great thing to use as well. Plus, at the same time, you also got your Tuskors as well. Now, it's not as good as a Razor Gore Chariot. Unfortunately, I just couldn't figure out a way to put a Razor Gore Chariot into this army. But the nice thing about this chariot, though, is that it gives you 4 wounds on top of that. So you have 4 wounds plus 3 wounds as your Great Bray Shaman. It gives you 7 wounds total at toughness 5 because you replace the chariot's toughness with the toughness of the fighter instead. At the same time, you also got that D6 plus 1 impact hits if you decide to charge in close combat. But the main reason why we're giving this guy the chariot is so that way you get that 360-degree viewpoint with firing magic missiles. And because that's exactly how we kit out this character to fulfill that role, it's going to make them even easier for them to target their enemies. And we're also going to pair this guy still with your Ungors, because remember, Ungors also have chariot runners, so that you can use these guys to kind of screen your chariot's advance. That way they can't be just straight up targeted. Like I said before, your Wargore is still the same, but we now add a new character, which is your Gorebull. Now, your Gorebull, of course, is the hero level equivalent of a Doom Bull. This guy's got additional hand weapon, as well as heavy armor, as well as a shield. And we also gave this guy the Blackened Plate. And the reason why is because that gives you full plate armor, and in addition it gives you a 3+ ward save as well. It also gives against flaming attacks anyways, which of course is quite a common threat that you're actually facing most of the time as well. And we're also giving this guy Muscular Monstrosity too, to give him +1 strength. Alright, what that's going to do is going to give your Gorebull strength 6 with close combat attacks, which could be great for you to use against anything that's tougher, like, you know, things like heavy cavalry, for example, or even monsters in some cases. This guy can cause a lot of problems by causing those kind of things to take place. And this guy's going to be attached to your Minotaur unit as well. Now, with your core units, of course, we have to pay that 750 point core tax. Your 20 Bestigors are still around, still equipped exactly the same way as your 2,500 point roster. Same thing with your Gore unit, still exactly the same way as well. We've upped your Ungor to 20 Ungor, and the reason why is just because you need more fighters in your core tax, because you do have to pay for that as well. So we have 20 fighters on top of that. But like we said before, that Chariot Runner rule is going to be really helpful because it can screen and protect your Great Bray Shaman who's mounted on a Tuskor Chariot. So that might be something you want to take into consideration. Now, we've also increased our Razor Gore Herd from not just 2, but now we have 3. So these 3 can actually take on anything with shaft-wise against your enemies as well. It's a really good hard-hitting list right there. Now, for your special units, of course, we've actually still kept your 2 units of 3 Dragon Ogres with great weapons, heavy armors, sharp attacks, still the same. Now we've increased your Minotaur herd, so it's no longer 6 Minotaurs, it's now 7 Minotaurs what we've actually done. Still have full command, still have the banner Outrage, same thing with light armor, but this time we've given 3 of them with additional hand weapons, 4 with great weapons. We've given all some of these guys shields, that way they can use that to protect themselves and make it a little bit more survivable against shooting attacks. And like I said before, your Gorebull will go into this unit, make it to an even unit of 4 with even unit of 8, 4 front, 2 deep, to give you that additional rank bonus as well. And we're also taking Harpies. Now, the reason why we're taking the Harpies is because they have the fly characters at 10 up. They also got scouts as well. They're also skirmishers with Swiss Stride. And the reason why we're taking Harpies is so that these guys can interact with any enemy war machines that might be coming your way. They can kind of attack those war machines, pin them down, prevent them from shooting at your army. Harpies are a great way in order to achieve that result. And of course, lastly, we have our Gorgon as well as our Cygor. They also, once again, make a return in this roster. So there you guys have it. That's going to make up your 3,000 point roster for this one. So there you guys go. In conclusion, the Beastmen Brayherds are a really great army to use, especially if you're brand new to Warhammer the Old World, in my opinion. And the reason why is because it still kind of plays like the traditional 8th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So if you played 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle or Warhammer the Armies Project or the 9th Age, a lot of the same kind of core mechanics still apply to Beastmen Brayherds because you're fighting in those larger infantry blocks. Now, I know the current meta is all about using dragons and cavalry and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, you don't have that kind of thing for a Beastmen Brayherd army, so you don't really have to worry about that too much. But some of the core mechanics, like using blocks infantry, still very much a part of 8th edition, and I think that's one of the reasons why a Beastmen Brayherd army is so great, because you get those stacks of those buffs based on your leadership characteristics with Primal Fury, so you'll be able to dominate very easily as well. At the same time, it's also a very hard-hitting army, and you'll be causing all kinds of chaos for enemies as well. And of course, if you don't like my list, if you want to change it up to meet your unique playstyle, by all means, please feel free to do so. This is just a suggestion at best, or if you're just like a brand new player who doesn't know where to start off, this might be something for, brand new players who are looking for some inspiration for a starting roster. So that's good for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is valuable to us as always. I am Commander Cheapskate. That's good for this video. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.